Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Beacon. City of Chelsea and Lewis Latimer Society are sponsoring the Beacon. We'll have it here for up until October. But actually, one of the things I like to do when I go into school and work with the kids, I'd ask for everybody to shut your eyes for 10 seconds. And the reason being is Lewis Latimer is responsible for the filament and the light bulb. Lewis Latimer worked with three of the greatest minds in engineering. He was an inventor, an engineer. He's responsible for the incandescent lighting. He worked with Edison, he worked with Maxima, and also with Alexander Graham Bell, who did the telephone. It's important for me to say that those three worked with a great mind in Lewis Latimer, as opposed to Lewis Latimer working with three great minds. At this time, we'd like to introduce my brother Ron, who will do an introduction in regards to Latimer Society and give us a little background on it.
Why we started this society. In our town, we have issues. We had issues. Probably still do, but not maybe as bad as they used to. One of those issues was education. And I recall saying to Leo one day, I go, what's the matter? These kids can't learn about science and technology through a black man? That's how we started. And we wanted to also work with young females, to work with them around the future, seeing the future. Because a lot of times, kids don't see things, that sort of thing. So that's how we started. So our activities through the years have been everything from camping, weekend camping trips, sports leagues, basketball leagues, girls basketball league, boys basketball league, field trips, and probably the most important thing happened to us was golf, of all things. And we called up in Franklin Park. They have I don't know if they still have it, but they had like a camp for a week. We took 10 kids out from Chelsea. I called them up and said, can we bring some Chelsea kids in? Oh yeah, sure. So what happened was we ended up partnering with Mass Golf Association, and we ran an after-school program in golf that took you to Franklin Park, driving ranges, took the kids to that, and we met this man his name was Mr. Champion. And Mr. Champion came from Brockton, but he'd come up to Chelsea every Thursday to teach Chelsea kids how to golf. But he was an engineer, a GE engineer. So with Latimer, it was like a natural, having an engineer that the kids can relate to, that sort of thing. In the past for us, we have a little exhibit in the City Hall after this program tour. And in addition, later on in the day, we're going to do a tour of where Lewis Latimer lived, where he was born. And the site of the future park that we've been waiting 23 years for. So hopefully that's going to happen in my lifetime. So again, I thank everybody for coming out. We've got a big day planned, and we will also have a reception down Chelsea Station for the New York folks. Everyone's invited, but so it's in their honor. because they come a long way, and we're reconnected to the House Museum. Because we were involved with saving the house in New York, the development of the house through Dr. Winifred, who's been in Chelsea 5 or 6 times before she passed away. So again, thank you all for coming out, and it's going to be a great day.
Just to touch upon the golf story. People go, you golf? No, I don't golf. Your brother golf? No, we don't golf. The reason we turn the kids on to golf because you need to know about etiquette. You need to know about the wind. You need to know about the distance. So what better way to teach kids while they were learning a simple game of golf? And some of those younger group kids who started with us, they golf today. Some are police, some are firemen, some are teachers. So we're kind of proud of that. Our next person up, we've had a long relationship with the Museum of Science. And Tim has been wonderful to work with, and also wanted to make sure that this ended up in Chelsea. So he worked with us along with the city manager, our acting city manager, Ned Keith, who should be the city manager, to say that we're going to make this happen, and here it is today. It's a proud day for Chelsea. Let me introduce our friend, Tom Ritchie from the Museum of Science.
Well, it's wonderful to see everybody, and I'll just say very briefly, the story of this was that I got connected with Hugh Price, who was the chairman of the board for Lewis Latimer House, who was a real legend in civil rights for this country. We got to talking about this Lewis Latimer story. I thought, wow, that belongs in the Museum of Science, and this incredibly elegant sculpture that just tells the story that Shervone put together. For a brief time, it was in our lobby. And it was just a beautiful thing, but it wasn't just that moment. Now the Lewis Latimer story is being told every day in the Theater of Electricity. So it's not just about electricity, it's also about Lewis Latimer and his role. So this domino effect from a Hugh Price and a conversation to the Museum of Science, this elegant sculpture now every day in the Museum of Science, and now here in Chelsea. I guess the point is that if you have people who have relationships who care about each other and about the world we live in, we can really do some great things together. The world is not kind to kids right now. The world is not kind to kids at all. It's going to take all of us to do something about it. The vision of the Museum of Science is that we envision a world where science belongs to each of us for the good of all of us. Each of us for the good of all of us. There's a whole bunch of people, billions and billions of people who need high-quality science learning. But you can only do that one relationship at a time. So we're glad that this is here in Chelsea. We have a strong and long, enduring relationship with Chelsea at the Museum of Science. So we're glad to have it here, and so proud of this beautiful sculpture. Glad to see our public officials here who are also committed to this community as we are. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
This next person has been a supporter of ours from day one. He believed in what we were doing and working with kids and teaching kids about life. And that's our own Senator, Sal D. Domenico.
Thanks, Leo. I thank Leo and Ron, and I want to thank all the folks here in Chelsea for supporting this project and for making sure that we brought it to its rightful place here in the city of Chelsea. And I want to thank Tim as well. If you don't know Tim Ritchie from Museum of Science, you're missing out, because he is somebody that's an exceptional person, entrenched in the community. You can see he's here with us today in Chelsea. and really is engaged in so many of the things that we care about for children and for families across the country. So thank you, Tim, for all your support, what you did to bring this into our state from the very beginning. So thank you very much to Tim. And I also want to just say a couple things about my good friends, Leo and Ron, and the Lewis Latimer Society that they created here in the city of Chelsea to make sure this is just not a one-stop thing. It's not something that's happening here for a short time, and we're not going to talk about it going forward. They're going to make sure this legacy continues in this community, and that children understand who Lewis Latimer was and the contributions that he made throughout our history, and Shervone's work in sculpturing this beautiful piece of art behind us is also going to tell the story to children and families and make sure people understand that these things don't just happen by chance. And we have a long history in this community of people who have gone on to do great things. Sometimes that's lost over time. If you don't have people like Ron and Leo and people in the community and Almy and our school system and our nonprofits that are doing so great work, if we don't all work together to tell that story, then it goes by the wayside. So I just want to thank you all for being here, elected officials, DA, our city councilors, and for always supporting things that matter to so many people in this community, and make sure that Chelsea always remembers its past. Thank you much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Senator. Our next person is District Attorney Kevin Hayden, whose dad had visited the library many times to sit and talk with me and Ronald about history. So at this time, District Attorney Kevin Hayden.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to see you out here today. I'm going to stick with a theme of children as I kind of work my way through this. But it was actually just about a year ago. It was at a Juneteenth event here in Chelsea last year that I came across an exhibit. And I had not met Ron yet. I came across an exhibit and it was about Lewis Latimer. And I went, wow. I said, oh my God, my dad has an entire chapter in one of his books about Lewis Latimer. So I grew up, I knew who Lewis Latimer was from a very, very young age. That's this book right here. This is one of the books that my dad wrote. And the person who I was speaking to brought me over and introduced me to Ron. And here we are. That was the beginning of this connection. And it was one that always existed because I know that, you knew my father and that he was instrumental in helping you gather information needed about history, about our history, about black history, right? Because that was my dad's passion. Like nothing excited my dad more or mattered to my dad more than black history, than African American history. And not just for himself, but for our children, for me, and for other young people. Because we had to know where we come from and what we've done and the contributions that we as black people have made in this American society. We can never forget that. All of America can never forget that. All of the United States of America can never forget the contributions that African Americans have made to this country, to the founding of this country. And so I brought another book with me, and the reason why is I'm going to read this, and then I'll tell you how funny it is based upon some of the things that have happened just here today. So this is another one of the books that my dad wrote. And this one is about scientists, 7 black American scientists. And in the front of it, I'm going to read what he wrote. My father passed away about 2 weeks after I was appointed as a DA here in Suffolk County. And left me with his great legacy. Part of what we're talking about is the legacy that he left for me. And this is what he wrote. This book here actually belongs to my older brother, Robbie Hayden, who also passed away when I was 12 years old. So he wrote, my dad wrote, to my son Robbie, this book was written for thousands of boys and girls, but especially for you. After you read about these great black men, we can talk about them. I hope that you'll be inspired by their lives and works as I have been inspired and learned about them in writing this book. To a great son, May you enjoy this book over the years, over and over and over again. Love, Daddy. That was written December 8th of 1970, my brother. And I'm fortunate to have this copy that my brother had back then. My dad did this for young people. My dad did the work that he did so that young black boys and girls could know about our history and our culture and our contributions to American society. That's what woke him up every single day. And to know that here we have an entire society, an entire group that's dedicated to Lewis Latimer, dedicated to someone who my dad revered and esteemed so highly. It's incredible. It's heartwarming, a little bit emotional for me. It's just extraordinary. And now to see this art exhibit here. So I was speaking earlier with Ryan, who I think we're going to hear from shortly, and I started flipping through the book. First I had seen the sculpture, and I said, that was familiar. Well, this is a picture in the book, in my dad's book. So there's similarity between that picture and the book. That's Lewis Latimer's drawing of the light bulb, and look at that. It's absolutely amazing. And then from there, to learn that Ryan told me, yeah, this sculpture was built by young people. Young people built this sculpture. Young people committed themselves to the history and the contribution that Lewis Latimer made to our society. And we must always remember that. We must always pass on our history and our rich history to our young people. It's really my honor and privilege to be here today. So good to see you all. Thank you, Leo. Good to see you, Sal. Good to see everybody. God bless you, everyone.
At this time, we'd like to bring the person responsible for putting this together. It's like putting a puzzle together. And here he is, Mr. Brian Cohn from the Beam Center.
Thanks, Leo. Some quick context. Beam Center is an organization that builds collaborative, ambitious projects with young people, artists, and educators. We started about an hour and a half north of here at our sleepaway camp in New Hampshire, Stratford, New Hampshire, where if you ever dare to travel there, you'll see many spectacular pieces of art in various states of decay in our forest, because we build one or two of them every summer. The reason we build projects with young people is because we want them to understand that their ideas matter and that they are possible. And we join with artists like Shervone Neckles so that those young people can walk in the brain of someone who dreams big and can make big things happen. When we started the Beam Center in New York in 2012, we brought that idea into the classrooms of the New York City public school system. And most recently, we've been bringing it to the streets and neighborhoods and parks of New York City. In 2020, when we did our call for proposals for our New York City project and we met Shervone, we thought we were living in a dream, because this idea represents everything that we believe in, that people from marginalized communities who have built this country deserve monuments to them, and that the young people who we work with need to be able to see what is possible, what they have done. Young people who look like these great thinkers, who've changed, who've built America, deserve the opportunity to see what's happened before them and to make their own mark by building monuments to them. So the story of how this got here, we didn't know where the story would end when we started. We started building this with 12 young people who were out of school and out of work as a training program. We began in January of 2020. Not good timing, but we persevered. They started by learning how to weld, how to mold concrete, how to mold the resin that is the filament of that sculpture. Then we shut down for a few months while we all persevered through the worst months of the pandemic. In September 20, we got back together. We put our masks on and we came back to the shop. They met Shervone many times. We went to the museum to feel what it was like to be Lewis Latimer and where he did so much of his great work. And we got it built, but we had no idea where it was going. It started its journey where Lewis Latimer ended his journey, at the Lewis Latimer Home Museum. It then traveled to downtown Brooklyn, which is where he lived prior to moving to his home. And then it sat for a while until we got a call from, who was the first call from? Was it Tim?
We connected with him.
And all of a sudden we saw how this journey would end. And we're so delighted that we were able to bring it home. Literally bring Lewis Latimer home. And as I think someone has said before, none of these kinds of things happen without immense collaboration. Can I introduce Rand? In so many ways, the Lewis Latimer legacy has been carried by Rand and her work with her team at the Lewis Latimer House Museum, and has been so central to everything that Shervone has done for this and that we have done, and so I'm very honored to bring Rand Yan from Lewis Latimer Home Museum.
Thanks, Brian. I wanted to express my deep gratitude for the Robinson brothers and everyone involved with the Latimer Society in Chelsea for carrying out and keeping up the work for all these years, long before I came to the Lewis Latimer House Museum in Queens, which was a home the Latimer family, the only home the Latimer family owned. Lewis Latimer lived in the house from 1902 till his death in 1928. And they became a landmark and was preserved thanks to the granddaughter Winifred Latimer Norman's efforts, as you all have mentioned. And Winifred was such a champion of the legacy. After preserving the house and turning it into a museum, she obviously connected with Chelsea and so many other torch carriers of Latimer's legacy. So I'm just really honored to be involved with the museum and to see it grow a little bit over the past few years. And I'm honored to be here in Chelsea. And for the beacon sculpture, it's been a tale of partnership that, like Tim mentioned and many others. We were really excited about Shervone's idea and Brian's team. They all kind of opened their arms for this partnership in order to make this project happen. And we just put in a little bit push of like finding out venues for it to travel, and it's really exciting for the sculptor to trace Latimer's footsteps from the museum to Boston and now here in his birthplace in Chelsea. It gives me chills to think about that. And now that we're all here celebrating the sculpture, every one of you seeing it is an ambassador of Latimer's legacy. So we're all telling his story and working toward telling a more inclusive history. Latimer was a Chelsea story, a New York story, a Bridgeport, Connecticut story. He was an American story. So I'm just very glad that this is happening, and very grateful for everyone involved. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to bring up the final but not the least, the artist Shervone, who brought this amazing idea to life.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I have to tell you, this is a very proud moment for me as a creative Beacon. It really is. As you already know, Beacon is inspired by the brilliance and the ingenuity of your very own hometown hero here in Chelsea. And I just can't imagine a better place to celebrate Louis Latimer's life and legacy than right here in his hometown, his birthplace. So thank you so much, Chelsea, for welcoming us and for hosting Beacon here where it's supposed to be, actually. So thank you. I have to say, as you heard from my collaborators, it has been a journey, a very interesting journey getting it here and actually just realizing Beacon. And as Brian mentioned, it was created during the height of the pandemic. And I remember the goal at the time was just to create, complete, and install the sculpture at the Louis Latimer House Museum in Queens, New York. That was the goal. We never imagined just how much that sculpture would, just garner so much interest and support and champions, and that it would travel, the momentum that was built around it, so it would travel to the different locations that Louis Latimer lived throughout his life. We could have never dreamed that, never imagined that, and it's happening. So just amazed by that. And what's been so fulfilling is being able to tell his story along the way and expand awareness of his contributions to science, to society, really expand the awareness of his pioneering work. So that's been the most fulfilling part of this whole journey for us. What I thought I'd do today is just share with you a little bit more about Beacon, how Beacon is inspired by Louis Latimer and what Beacon symbolizes. So as you heard earlier, Louis Latimer's inventions, as well as his collaborations with like inventors, so I'm sure you've heard of, like Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell and Hiram Maxim, are the reason we have a lot of the technology that we have today. The telephone, the light bulb, the electrical lighting systems that's literally powering all the spaces that we occupy. So it's his contributions to those inventions that has continued to influence and impact, our lives to this present day. And it's Louis Latimer's specific creation of the processing of the carbon filament that has advanced and improved Thomas Edison's incandescent light bulb, right? And it's his improvement that allowed for the light bulb to last longer, to be more cost effective, easier to mass produce, and he actually made light more accessible to everyone. So just imagine in the 1880s, having light. What a game changer that was for people at that time. I mean, it literally changed the way people were able to live and literally see and move and operate in the world. And so what Beacon is meant to be is really, a gesture of remembering Louis Latimer and really honoring him for his labor and his ingenuity in science. Now, the design of Beacon, as you heard also, thank you for showing that picture of District Attorney of the incandescent light bulb, because that's what I was doing. It's the 1881 patent drawing of Louis Latimer's electrical lamp that I'm referencing, and I'm also referencing his 1882 patent of the processing of the carbon filament in the incandescent light bulb. Some of you might have had the chance to interact with Beacon already, but built into the inside of Beacon are these proximity sensors that activates the filament on the inside of Beacon. So when you, depending on your interaction or your proximity to the sculpture, the filament on the inside will turn on and start to emit a pulsing light. And then when you step away from it or outside of those proximity sensors, it will then start to fade out and then completely turn off. Now, this interactive component for me was important because I wanted to illuminate and remind everyone who actually improved Thomas Edison's light bulb and who actually made light more accessible to everyone, right? Now, besides the literal interpretation of Lewis Latimer's invention, I also wanted to capture the essence of Lewis Latimer as a person, right? Now, as you heard, he was born in 1848, right here in Chelsea, and he died in 1928. And just imagine being a black man in America at that timeline, right? He's born before the Civil War, but then a few years later, he would actually enlist in the Union Navy and fight in the Civil War as a teenager. And then he would live through some of the short-lived gains of Reconstruction, and then all of the unthinkable things that would happen following Reconstruction. But what's so fascinating to me and what has inspired me is how Lewis Latimer chose to live his life in that time, right? He dared to dream, he created, and he was committed to improving the quality of life, not only for himself, his family, and the black community, but he was committed to improving the quality of life of everyone. And he was able to accomplish just that through his inventions. And so Beacon is really meant to be a reflection of Lewis Latimer's divine, perpetual, radiant light. And then it's also meant to reflect us. It's meant to reflect our own potential, right? Because we each carry that inner light that exists within each of us, right? To defy all those limitations and conditions and circumstances that we might be born into and have to live through. Just like Lewis Latimer and his parents. And so, you know, as my collaborators and I continue to travel Beacon and share his story, I've been referring to this journey as a kind of homecoming journey. And that idea of homecoming has really expanded for me ever since I started this project. You know, it's not only about a place or returning to a place, but homecoming actually means for me having a better understanding of my history, having a better understanding of where I'm from and where I lived, and also whose shoulders that I stand on. You know, so today, as you continue to enjoy your day and interact with Beacon, I do hope that you will join us in making sure to share the story of Lewis Latimer, you know, talk about his contributions to science, share about the light that he was able to bring into this world and change our lives completely. And I do want to just thank you all for being here. You know, it wouldn't be an event without your presence. And thank you all for the light that you're bringing into the work that you're doing. And I'd be remiss if I did not express my deepest and sincerest appreciation to all the folks that made Beacon's presence here possible. So I'll start with the City of Chelsea. Thank you so much. The Latimer Society, the Robinson Brothers, the Museum of Science, thank you. And then I have to talk about my collaborators, my longtime collaborators. We've been in the trenches together. Beam Center and the Lewis Latimer House Museum, thank you so much. I hope you all enjoy your day.
Could I ask Tim and Brian and Anna to come up, please? I'd like to thank everybody for being here. There's so many people to thank. The man who's always on the move and in the background and gets a lot done that sometimes we don't recognize is our acting city manager, Neckles. And also our city solicitor, who was big in making sure that things were going to be worked out to make sure that this got here in Chelsea. Cheryl Watson Fisher. And also many DPW workers, Mario and his crew, Jimmy Cameron and his crew who spent the day out here with Brian putting it together. I also want to give a special thank you to Chelsea Community Cable, Ricky and Paula, for all their support around this project. Once again, thank you, Ricky and Paula.
So in closing, I'd just like to thank everybody.